welcome back to East Coast DNA. Here again at the Marigold, some of the keen observers may recognize the background immediately. But this guest is actually from the Truro area, so we've traveled to you. But thank you for allowing us to have some time today.
Hi, thanks for having me be here. This is awesome.
So it's Justin, and you're from the band Shadow Folk.
Yes, yep, that's me, Justin McGrath.
Justin McGrath. So I'm curious. Let's start. We'll get to Shadow Folk, but since we're here in your hometown, we may as well start with a little journey as to who Justin is and what brought you to this point. So you're born and bred in Truro?
Yeah. I grew up in Truro, went to CEC, got a little bit of the CEC music program. A little bit of jazz fusion and a little bit of symphonic band. I was a percussion player. And I also, I started way back playing in junior high in music class. Started playing the axe at that point. When I was probably, I want to say either 13 or 14. We had a little squad going, playing some covers at that point. Cool. The first band that we formed way back was called the Coolest Hot Band, and we also quickly changed to the name Valhoogan.
Oh yeah, okay. I've heard that name before actually.
Valhoogan.
So, yeah, well, back in the day, there used to be, and I don't know for sure if that's where I'd know it from, but I do know that not far from where we are right now, there was some all ages shows. There'd be some metal and punk stuff going on there. So I'd come up because I knew some of the bands back then. Yeah. And this is going back like well over a decade. I hazard a guess it might have been like 2 decades ago.
Yeah, I never even witnessed much of the like cool punk and metal scene that happened. Like I kind of caught the tail end of what you'd call the Tack Grounds scene at the Tack Grounds Clubhouse, which was very cool. Yeah, they used to have awesome punk shows. Just caught the tail end with when I joined in with the Scott Nix band way back in the day. We played there a couple times. Very cool.
So how did you find, like we've both just kind of alluded to the fact that there was a little bit of a scene going on in this region, which I'm guessing, and I'm not doing very good math here, but just based on a couple vague recollections, I'm thinking like it wouldn't really have been late 90s, even though I wished to say that it was. It would probably be like extreme ends of the late 90s into the early 2000s maybe.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
So that seems, I'm curious to ask you this because you are from this region and because of the genre of music that you kind of fall into. I'm curious where that scene kind of disappeared as far as the public eye. It does seem like instead of there being like a type of vacuum that brought in a different genre or sent all of those players to a different area like Halifax, which would be the obvious choice, it does seem like it created an underground scene in Truro because of what I do. I'm aware of that there's a lot of bands like yourself that are not necessarily mainstream bands, but you're very active, and there seems to be a concentration of some punk and some heavier bands, and those bands also seem to fall in with like a alternative style jam band type thing as well, which probably falls into some of that jazz fusion kind of thing as well. So it seems like we have a really interesting variation of alternative music that exists right in Truro, and I'm fascinated by it, but I don't know a lot about it. So I think you fall into that category, and Shadow Folk falls into that category. But what happened in that era where you didn't have all ages shows to go to anymore? We've talked about it in the past about the Pictou County area, but I don't know Truro like you would. So later into the like 2010 where things have disappeared, and then
that was where I started. Basically, the very end of the 2000s, or that first, I don't know how to say that, but around the year 2009, 2010, I kind of entered into being in that rock squad, Scott
Yeah.
Nick's band, and caught the end of that tack ground scene. I think, yeah, it probably fizzled away more or less because there must have been kind of like a generation of kids where there was an explosion of more kids and ones that I guess just liked punk and heavy music. And then, there must have just been a boom of the kids, and then at some point they kind of all aged out to kind of like moving away to different places,
Sure, yeah.
stuff like that. Like, that seems like a fairly classic thing to do growing up in Truro would be to, if you want to do music after high school, to kind of get to where more people are and more people are forming bands and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there wasn't, like, besides, once that punk scene seemed to kind of fizzle away a bit, all of a sudden there wasn't, after the tack grounds, someplace. Actually, we kind of morphed over to Douglas Street School a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Douglas Street School at one point was, I want to say thriving, at least for a while, yeah. It would have been right after that. Because that's where I played with Scott Nick's band kind of after I first joined in with them. And we kind of had this big Christmas show every year, the Douglas Street Christmas show, which at one point came to be really, really big. And yeah, I remember the biggest one was this nice show with Jenna Berry opening.
Okay, yeah.
And she's a great performer. And yeah, they kind of had some like punk stuff there. Let's see. I remember seeing LP there.
Yeah.
A project that Luke Mumford was heading. Luke Mumford was in the band Genetic Angry. They were like a big deal in that punk scene. And yeah, that was kind of quite booming for a while, but that kind of fizzled away too. They don't really do much at Douglas Street for rock and roll shows that I know of now.
I suppose that kind of is what sends people into HRM, like the Halifax area, like in places like Radstorm that will accommodate that type of genre. And it hits an all ages show, which is an extra bonus too. So do you find that from your experience playing based out of Truro yourself and with the genres that you're touching, do you find that the audience that wants to come out and see a performance like that you really do need the all ages audience? Is that seem to be where the sweet spot is as far as attendance? Or is it just happen to be that the genres that are playing all ages shows don't necessarily have another venue to play at?
Yeah, right now and for maybe the last, I want to say, couple years, Truro seems like it hasn't had kind of like a de facto venue that is like the spot to go, see live music. It's always here. There's always something interesting. So, yeah, but I've still been doing, shows through the last couple of years, but kind of bouncing around to different venues.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of make do with what's there and kind of get creative with it. Like, I took it on myself to set things up at the Ravana's Pizza venue in Bible Hill, where I kind of got that started. Maybe we must have played there 2 summers ago when I first pitched it to the owner there. And it kind of took on a life of its own after I did a couple shows there. Other people started playing there on their own, and there were some great shows that I just witnessed that I had nothing to do with being the promoter or setting up. Like Pavel Stroke played there. That was an awesome performance. And some other really cool stuff I had to miss. I kind of forget. But some nice bands were coming in.
Leaf Green one. Did you guys play that as well?
Yeah, we played once with Leaf Green there, and I saw them a couple other times there where I wasn't involved with like playing or anything. And it just seemed like for a bit there, people were coming in from bands were coming in from Halifax to play, and it was kind of happening there for a bit. It's a bit of a strange location. You got to drive there. There's not really much way to get there. But yeah, that kind of stopped off, and right now people are liking playing at this place. The Commune
Yeah.
is a newer place that people are starting to like right now.
Yeah. If anyone watching this show right now, not at this moment, but after this episode, if you go look on our YouTube channel and through our podcast streaming, we have some interviews where we've talked about the Commune, and Derek was on talking about the fact that he was going to move it up here to Truro.
Oh, nice.
So it's a little dated now, but give
Yeah.
people a little bit of history as far as what the Commune is. But it is very exciting that you have that here in your region.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always somewheres that kind of comes into play once a place, kind of like isn't quite perfect and kind of fizzled out. There is now like a bit more kind of action, whereas at some points I've kind of looked around and saw no possible venues to play at for little periods of time around here. But that's cool that they moved here more recently. I like the aesthetic of the new place, kind of like the burned out sign.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little bit mysterious. I like that. I like something different.
Yeah, it definitely gives that pop-up shop vibe while they're at that temporary location. And then long term, they're moving to a bigger facility here that they already have in progress. So I'm curious to see where that goes. And for anyone watching this, and for I know that you know some of this, but as of the time of people watching this, I should also be advertising a few other things that would fall in line with as far as providing venues for bands like yourself. In Pictou, out of the DeCoste Center, there's the Apollo series that will be running, which starts at the end of December here. And right here at the Marigold, Marshall's kind of spearheading a new thing of the Subvert series here as well. So
it's exciting.
There will be a follow-up episode where I dive into each one of those series for anyone that's listening that wants to know more about them. But that's the cookie cutter version, is that it is providing venues for some of those type bands, some independent and local indie bands coming up.
Yeah, Marshall was just telling me about, you say, Apollo series.
That's the Pictou one, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw the contrived video, very cool.
Looks very good.
And I'm excited about the Subvert series. Shadow Folk is playing in Subvert. We're going to be playing with Baloney, and we're going to be playing with Force Fields.
Now, Baloney, Colorado, I'm very aware of, as much as I am of like Shadow Folk and the bands that are for
Baloney's doing awesome,
Leaf Green we've had on, so like I'm a little bit more familiar with some of their stuff because I've been following it a little longer.
Yeah, I really like them.
But the last band there, that's new to me. Are they new band, or are they from away?
Force Fields is actually seemingly kind of historic. Like, I remember. So I joined in Walrus way back in the day, and when we first started going to Fredericton, Force Fields was already really well known in Fredericton. Like, they basically had like legend status when I'm just starting to come around Fredericton. But they weren't even like playing at that time. It's like they'd already built up this huge following.
Yeah, cool.
Or at least, that was kind of how I heard it, like through word of mouth at the time, like about this Force Fields band and how awesome they were. And but they weren't really playing at the time I showed up. So then eventually I think we played with them like maybe just once over the years, but it's kind of this epic event because I don't feel like they were playing much there. I'm not sure about now because I kind of mostly my focus is kind of in the Nova Scotia scene.
Sure.
I've been branching out into, New Brunswick, PEI, and all that, but I'm not kind of like completely in the know in all these New Brunswick scenes at the moment.
Sure, yeah.
Kind of have to dig in a little bit more to those areas. I've been doing a lot of Nova Scotia, but trying to hit like kind of different places in the province, maybe a bit more unusual.
I think Zeros in Moncton probably has bands go through there that would fall right into what you're looking for too. So
yeah, we played there, or actually I played there solo.
Okay.
Just kind of, I had this adaptable vibe where, not every band member can necessarily do every single gig.
Sure.
So I went and did that solo, and it went really, really well. It was cool. Another act was great, Claire Turnbull.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a really nice venue. I like that place.
And does your solo performance, is it Shadow Folk songs, or you have your own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just kind of like, when something like that comes up, I like to get into something a little different, make it exciting,
Yeah.
maybe play some songs that I wouldn't be able to just teach the band in a second, but
Yeah.
I kind of know from a bit of experience. What did I do that night? I must have did, like kind of the Irish feel song.
Okay.
The A Row in the Town, also known as Erin go Bra. Just like an old Revolutionary War song from Ireland. Awesome song. The Wolf Tones, I believe. I covered that, but I'll throw a cover in there every once in a while.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I'm all about just kind of all originals. I just do
Yeah.
that to spice it up once in a blue moon.
Wake people up out there and just make sure
Yeah.
that you're saying, "Hey, look at me," so you can throw another original at their face.
I like to do something different.
Yeah.
Kind of surprise people if I can once in a while with the Irish song or something.
So maybe we should get into Shadow Folk then, as far as that as a project, like that's existed for some time now.
Yeah, Shadow Folk actually goes way back, but I've kind of worked on it on and off as, I've taken like a couple years off at a time, or even maybe a few years back, years ago, from playing a lot in the band Walrus. I've kind of been in a lot of different groups and done different things. But Shadow Folk actually like officially would have started with that name as my project probably in, I want to say 2013, a long time ago. But not really steady all through that time. It's kind of morphed and shifted, but I just kind of kept that name as I'm doing more stuff that's me. Yeah, and we never did like a full-scale album back in the day or anything. It was kind of sporadic. But now I've got this whole, what I would consider my first full-length album that's kind of the real deal, full. I did in 2021 the kind of Holiest of Days. I call that an EP. It's kind of this length that's ambiguous because it's, 7 songs and probably, I couldn't really say, maybe 21 minutes or something.
Yep.
You don't know whether to call it really an album, but I felt like a true album maybe has to be almost 30 minutes and maybe like more like 9 songs or something instead of 7. So I've got this album done and dusted that's kind of the first true full length. But we've released many things, many EPs, many singles through the years. So the new album I'm going to call, I think, Past the Third Mountainside LP. So I did the self-titled single recently that has Garrett Mason on lead axe. And that was just, to me, kind of legendary to have actually had Garrett in the studio. I actually had him in the studio several years ago. That's a track that I kind of dusted off, found a really good rhythm track that is just kind of in my bank. Thought, this is kind of the most special thing you can get with Garrett on the lead axe. So, I kind of dusted it off and, started kind of fixing up vocals and kind of some other stuff, little drones in there, make it droney. That's supposed to be a drone rock song, I call it. So, that's kind of the title track, and I've got this whole album kind of based around that. It's got a loose theme, it's kind of whimsical, out past the third mountainside, kind of in a dream. It's got psych kind of elements. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'm going to drop that next month, around a month, like December, January
Christmas
is the goal.
frame or just slightly after?
Yeah, like probably a little after.
Okay.
Maybe early January. But we'll see. I'm excited, though. The big full length.
And that's actually a good segue into my other question as far as plans for 2025. So you're gonna kick it off pretty quick with a new album.
Yeah, I want to kind of make 2025 into, something big.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is to have a set of wheels and kind of travel a bit more, like scale it up a bit more.
Sure.
So I've been building up slowly by expanding to Maritime region,
Mm-hmm.
going to some different places in Nova Scotia that aren't traditional playing places, but
Yeah.
kind of trying to see what's there. And then doing a fair amount in the classic Halifax, Dartmouth,
Mm-hmm.
Truro, kind of like the easy population centers that are within the hour.
Yeah.
Moncton, we were just at recently. That's all fairly close, but I do want to ramp it up to get to some places like beyond the barrier of where we've gone yet
Mm-hmm.
as Shadow Folk. So we haven't gone past, I want to say, Miramichi, or we haven't gone past, say, St. John,
Yeah.
Miramichi.
It's funny how quickly you can carve out a market for yourself once you've established a couple venues that are familiar with you, but it's so easy to fall into, I'm going to go here this week, there this week, there, and then repeat.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
It's what you're talking about is getting to the point where you're like, I need to break into new markets.
Yeah, and to just explore places that kind of haven't been found yet. Yeah, you can't settle for just kind of the first place you find. If it's not quite like, you want to reach somewhere and find something really special before you kind of settle into one venue that's like your go-to. You want to find a special connection.
Well, in our communities too, I find, and I might be coming from a different perspective, but I will look for venues in small communities and try to figure out which one is like the central location for the music scene in that community. And almost every community has at least one. Sometimes there's multiple. Like I do find that Glasgow, Sydney, Truro, like there's a lot of areas that do have a lot of small towns around them with a fairly concentrated population that way that will have a lot of different venues. But even some of those off the beaten path ones, like you're mentioning, like finding some different ones, they will have a healthy, regular crew of people that are going out as far as, and this is something I've adjusted to on my end, is that some bands you follow and you want to go see the band live. So you will travel to go see the band if they're somewhere. But then there's some venues that you're going to the venue for music. You're not. It doesn't matter. You know that venue has music that you like, so you don't even need to know who's playing. Your plan is to go to the venue on that day.
Yeah, that's kind of a best case scenario.
Yeah.
I feel like every small town has a venue or a place you can play, and it becomes somehow more special for the people who witness it, because not as many bands come through these small towns. So when you do and you really show, you put some work in, you got something going on, people really seem to appreciate it, maybe even that much more, since they don't see shows all the time or have it constantly. Yeah, I mean, Antigonish had a good show there.
Yeah.
Played in Shubenacadie on Canada Day. That was cool. Oh, I play with another kind of newer squad that we formed up called Pharaoh.
Okay.
PHA, Pharaoh. And we played the big Canada Day at Shubenacadie, the big fireworks display, which was crazy.
Amazing.
Basically the best fireworks I've ever seen. I really didn't expect that. I was impressed. They must have spent a lot of money. But yeah, that's just an example of kind of places you wouldn't really
think of immediately, and
you wouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm going to book Shubenacadie or say Antigonish. Antigonish is obviously a university town,
right?
But from what I understand, they finally kind of have a cool venue. That's called Candid.
Yeah, Candid. And I've been to Coldstream a few times, which there's a few Coldstreams around. So I mean, if you've been to any of them, they're great. But Candid, I was there recently with Andre Petitpas doing some promotional stuff for Giant Stock, and they had a beer that was released. Italian Candid has a Giant Stock beer.
Awesome.
So yeah, that is a pretty cool venue, and it does seem like that is one of those venues where the local people that are wanting to go out and have a good time and hear some music know that they can go there.
Yeah, exactly. They got something going on there. There was a
Mm-hmm.
great vibe. We had a good show, even though something was working against it. Like, oh, it was like right during exam
Oh,
times,
yeah,
yet we still had
yeah.
this awesome show. I
Good,
thought it
good.
was good. I think we opened for Bologna there.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, our next performance is here in town.
Okay.
And we're playing with a group from Antigonish called Slander.
Okay.
And I think they're a brand new squad who I think they're made up of a couple music students from St. FX, but they're doing kind of heavy stuff. Obviously, the music program there, which I attended for a little bit way back in the day when I was getting my start,
Mm-hmm.
it's a jazz program.
Yeah.
So, I think people on the side are finding it really rewarding to kind of do heavy stuff since, with jazz, you never get to pump on the distortion and kind of
Yeah.
go for it as hard as you can and all this. So I'm excited for them. I saw a little video. They sounded really good. We're playing at the Commune this coming Friday,
Cool.
November 29th, Friday at the Commune.
That's
Yeah.
great. So anyone that happens to hear this before that performance, definitely pop down there. I know we've both praised the Commune already, but it does have limited capacity if people are going to go for a show. So get there early if you're going to go.
Oh, yeah.
You'll definitely get a good view, but you
9
definitely want to go
p.m.
early.
that one.
9 p.m.
Yes. 9 p.m. start.
Excellent. So in the future, as you have in the past, let East Coast DNA know when you're performing around, and we'll be happy to reshare it. But
I'll send you the poster.
yeah, perfect. And I do want to make sure that I get out to some more performances here in the near future.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can get up to you someday when I actually have my camera in my hand and get a few shots of you guys too.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
But before we leave here today, do you want to give a shout out to the other members of your band? Maybe give a little run through of who else is in Shadow Folk.
So on axes, we have Jake Ran, lead axeman. We kind of do the dueling solos. And he's been with me now for a couple years. We've had different members over the years. We kind of had the originals, and now we kind of have this different formation. So Jake's been with me for a couple years, and now we have two kind of newer members on the rhythm section. We got Scott Nix on bass, the veteran I've played with forever. Awesome. And we have Chris Power on drums, a new member who is turning out really well. He's got great skills, and the rhythm section is sounding great. We're just kind of hitting our stride, as in they're new enough for the sense that we're just getting better and better kind of each gig, and kind of getting somewhere is good. So we're hitting a good stride. I'm excited for the big show Friday. Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to see what else you guys have in store. As I said, I've been aware of you guys, but I'm also aware, like you said, that there's been some periods of activity and then some lulls and everything, but it seems like you got a solid lineup right now and that you got some momentum going. So excited to see what 2025 brings. I'd like to hear this new album too. So maybe in the new year sometime we'll arrange a little bit of a follow-up. And maybe we'll also have a little chat after I hit stop on the recording here about what our travel plans are like for 2025. We might overlap a little bit there too.
Yeah, nice.
And for anyone that's listening today to this episode, before you leave us today, we will leave you with a little bit of a musical sampling. So is there a song that you would like to play off with to give people an example of Shadow Folk?
Yes, the song "Past the Third Mountainside."
Excellent. Very topical with the conversation too.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time. And for anyone that's been following along here, stay tuned for this musical delight. And make sure you subscribe to both the Shadow Folk Online and the East Coast DNA. And you'll hear more from both of us in the very near future.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thanks again, Justin, and we'll talk soon.
Cheers.